Eleanor scrubbed the marble floors. Her hands burned. Her knees ached. No one glanced at her. Just another servant in the vast palace of Whitehall. But Eleanor had another life. A secret life. She was Lady Eleanor Cavendish. Her family, loyal to the Parliament, had lost everything. Her father imprisoned. Her brother fighting for Cromwell. Eleanor forced into hiding. She became a maid, invisible, forgotten, a perfect spy. Each night she traded her rough-spun dress for fine silks. She slipped through hidden passages, her heart pounding. She met with Cromwell's agents, passed on information, troop movements, court gossip, plans. Eleanor knew the risks. Discovery meant death. But her loyalty to her family, to Parliament, burned stronger than fear. She was a weapon against the king, hidden in plain sight. Weeks bled into months. The war raged on. Eleanor played her part. She eavesdropped on conversations, sifted through discarded papers, memorized troop deployments. Every whisper, every scrap could change the course of the war. One day she overheard a conversation. Two royalist officers, drunk on wine and victory. They boasted of a secret plan, a surprise attack on Cromwell's forces. Eleanor's blood ran cold. This information could save her brother, save the Parliament's cause. She had to get word to Cromwell. But how? The risks were higher than ever. The palace walls felt like a cage. Eleanor paced her tiny room, a plan forming in her mind. King Charles was a man consumed by worry. The war was not going his way. He paced his private chambers, his face etched with lines of fatigue and suspicion. "There's a traitor in our midst," he declared to his advisors. His gaze swept over them, sharp and accusing. "Someone is leaking information to Cromwell. Find them! Find them before it's too late!" His words hung heavy in the air, a chill settling over the room. The king's paranoia was a double-edged sword. It made Eleanor's task more dangerous, but it also created opportunities. Opportunities for misdirection. Opportunities to exploit the fear that gnawed at the heart of the royalist court. Eleanor had to be cunning. She couldn't risk carrying written messages. Too dangerous. Instead, she turned to a childhood pastime, embroidery. She would weave the message into a tapestry, a gift for the queen. She chose her colors carefully, each one representing a different military unit. Each stitch a movement on the battlefield. It was a dangerous game. One wrong stitch, one misplaced color, and her treachery would be revealed. Days turned into nights. Eleanor stitched under the watchful eyes of the other maids. They gossiped about the war, unaware that the quiet girl amongst them held its fate in her hands. Section 5. The Midnight Rendezvous. The tapestry was finished, a masterpiece of deception. Eleanor gazed upon it with a mixture of pride and fear. Now she had to get it out of the palace. She had arranged a meeting, a midnight rendezvous with an agent of Cromwell's. A risky proposition. The palace was on high alert. Guards patrolled the corridors, but Eleanor had no other choice. As the clock chimed midnight, Eleanor crept through the darkened corridors. Her heart pounded against her ribs. The tapestry felt heavy in her hands, a weight of hope and fear. Eleanor reached the designated meeting point, a small, secluded courtyard. The agent was late. Minutes stretched into an eternity. She began to pace, her nerves stretched taut. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on her shoulder. She spun around, her blood turning to ice. It was not Cromwell's agent. It was Sir Thomas Fairfax, the king's most trusted advisor. His eyes were cold and calculating. "Lady Eleanor Cavendish," he said, his voice a low hiss. "We've been expecting you." He gestured to the shadows. Two guards emerged, their faces grim. Panic seized Eleanor. She had been betrayed, but who and why? There was no time to ponder these questions. She had to escape. She shoved the tapestry into Fairfax's hands and bolted. She ran through the maze of corridors, her mind racing. She could hear Fairfax's shouts behind her, the pounding of boots on stone. She had to reach the hidden passage, her only chance. The passage was dark and narrow. Eleanor stumbled through the darkness, her lungs burning. She could hear the guards getting closer. Their voices echoed through the passage, mocking her desperation. Eleanor burst out of the passage into a moonlit garden. Freedom was within reach, but it was not to be. Two guards intercepted her, their faces grim. They had her trapped. She was dragged back through the palace. Each step felt like a nail hammered into her coffin. They took her to the king's private chambers. King Charles waited for her, his face a mask of cold fury. "You have betrayed my trust," he spat. Eleanor met his gaze, her chin held high. "I did it for my family," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "For Parliament." King Charles was about to pronounce her sentence when a new voice filled the room. "Enough!" said Queen Henrietta Maria. She stepped forward, her eyes filled with a strange sadness. "Your Majesty!" sputtered King Charles. The Queen silenced him with a look. She turned to Eleanor. "You are a brave woman, Lady Eleanor," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle, but foolish. The Queen turned back to the King. "Send her to the Tower," she said, "but no harm is to come to her. We are at war, my king, but we are not barbarians." King Charles, though fuming, yielded to his wife. Eleanor was led away. She had failed to deliver her message, but she had survived. And in the Queen's unexpected mercy, she found a sliver of hope. The war was far from over.